Need a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good. The first item on the agenda is a continuation of the public hearing for the definitive subdivision plan, 50 Country Way. The applicant, 50 Country Way Trust, Chris Ford, trustee. Looks like we've got the usual players.
Enough paper
Oh, yeah.
to build the place with the
What?
trees.
I'd like to do a couple things. One is obviously get caught and make sure that we're all current with what's been done since we met last. But I get three other things that I'd like to at least see where we are with respect to them. One is, I think you had a copy of the letter from the Water Resource Committee. I'd like to talk to that. We talked off and on, but I want to get a current status of the building preservation. And then I want to talk about the status of your discussions with your neighbor. I think all of those pieces that play into both decisions of whether it's the special permit or the definitive. So let's do that. But first, why don't you update us as to where you are and what's been done since our last meeting?
But for the record, Gregory Morse, Morse Engineering. With me is attorney Steve Gard and the property owner and applicant Chris Ford. Since the last meeting, we have worked on all three of those items in addition to preparing a discussion plan for the definitive subdivision, which we'd like to go over, and we've submitted a full revised submittal for the special permit project. That has undergone John's review, and John has issued a revised letter in July on the special permit project. In regards to the first three items, the Water Resource Committee, I attended a meeting with them back in July. I believe Bill was in attendance. I believe Laura was at the meeting. And we discussed the project. Specifically, we really discussed the reuse of the leaching catch basins at the front of the site. As you recall, with both projects, there are some leaching catch basins that handle the impervious surface of a developed site right now in the front portion. With both projects, we were taking credit for those existing catch basins and reusing them with our drainage design. We were reusing them, but we were increasing and bettering the water quality going to those. We were discharging less water in the post-development to those catch basins, a less impervious surface, and we were also putting a filter in place prior to those leaching catch basins. Those are of utmost importance due to the fact that those are located in the Zone A, which is the 400-foot radius from the town's drinking reservoir. We've looked at the DEP requirements, we've looked at the stormwater regulations, and when we met with the Water Resource Committee, we basically looked into three different options on what to do with the stormwater. And I believe that they were in general concurrence that out of the three options, reuse of the catch basins with the increased filtering and the reduced impervious surface was the better of the three options. The three options being one, connecting to the town's drainage system within Country Way. Secondly, would be trying to reduce the groundwater separation at the rear of the site for the drainage basins that we have back there. What we're held to here is we have an existing groundwater table and we have an existing elevation at Country Way that we have to meet. It physically is impossible to grade the site from Country Way back and achieve the groundwater separations at the rear of the site. So we talked about reduction in the groundwater separations that way. And then thirdly, we talked about the retrofit of the leaching catch basins by adding the filters and sending a less impervious surface there. And that seemed to be the preferred alternative with them at their meeting. Building preservation, we've had Jim Sandell, who's a registered architect, Carl Lynch and Sandell out of Cambridge, has walked through the site. He's walked through the building. We've had a building mover visit the site, and both Sandell and the mover are in concurrence that the building can be moved. And I believe that we are in agreement that we would entertain a condition that the building be moved. If anything arose during construction, we'd have to bring it back forth to you. But both the architect and the mover at this point in time both tell us it is feasible and doable. Thirdly, the status with the neighbors, Morning Glories. We had a site meeting with Morning Glories just last week. I had met with them previously as well. Specifically regarding the special permit project, we were proposing to add some curbing along the side of their building. We were also proposing to add some curbing at the rear of their property. Portions of that work lie outside of the easement that Mr. Ford has rights over. We discussed the installation of those curbings. They are in agreement with the installation of those curbings. We are working out the final details with them in the legal agreement that will allow that, but their placement in their construction, they're in agreement with. We also discussed the leach and catch basins that are on their property, the ones that we're putting the retrofit filters on and utilizing with our stormwater system. They have agreed to let us take over operation and maintenance of those and include those as part of our system. And that's something Mr. Ford will take on ownership responsibility of, is the operation and maintenance of those leach and catch basins. Thirdly, we discussed revised parking with them. We gave them some schematic diagrams showing how their parking could be adjusted on their property. And that's where we left it off. We owe them some legal agreements to discuss how we're going to take over the maintenance of the catch basins, how we're going to take over the maintenance of that easement and the access onto the site. But they are in general agreement with the layout of the project and us taking those responsibilities.
Been busy. I say you've been busy.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question? Just what was the general consensus about the parking? I mean, you said you offered several options?
The one that I brought one of the schematics that we came up with. I think generally they like it, and I'll show it to you. It is schematic only. Their concern had to do with providing more of a loading zone for them. But what we showed, their property here, again, is highlighted in the dark here, and this rendering here doesn't have our most current site on it. But generally, the access is exactly the same. We'd be adding this curbing here, we'd be adding the curbing at the back of the site to create our new entrance. What we tried to do for them is we tried to provide an actual drive-through lane here, and we also tried to provide a bypass to that lane so that you would actually have two-way access in the back here as a bypass if you weren't going through the drive-through. In addition, out back right now, they do not have any sort of landscape island, they don't have any green space. By adding this green space, it actually delineates the new parking spaces. So you can see this is where their employees park now. They'd also gain some additional parking out here in the middle, which is not utilized at this point. I think their concerns, we haven't fully looked into at this point, but they were wondering about the potential of adding or taking away from some of this walkway and putting two parallel parking spaces there. We were going to look into that further for them. I believe that may be attainable. I think the traffic engineer, I believe the intent here was to create, a hard curb at these locations to define this. I don't know if putting those two spaces in will eliminate the curbing in it. It's not going to eliminate in its entirety, but I don't know if it'll take from the integrity what he was trying to achieve. The second thing that they were concerned about was loading for their trucks. They have a rear service door here. Right now, the trucks come into the back parking lot and they just park in the middle of the parking lot. So we were trying to accommodate a way to have some sort of loading zone back here. I don't know if that's making it so that some of the parking spaces are designated employee spaces and it's okay if we block those with a delivery truck. We're looking into that part further. So we owe them another schematic taking into consideration their comments, but that's generally how we started to lay out their project.
Thank you.
I'm sorry?
No, I said thank you.
Yeah. Because it's kind of chaotic now in the way it's,
How much room is there between the building and the curb?
Over in here,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I believe it's about 12 feet.
What about the other? It looks like there's a piece that's skinnier.
Oh,
No,
Oh,
right
in
there.
here?
Yeah.
yeah, it may be just a little bit less, so. Typically, a parking space is 10 feet in width by 20 feet long.
And how wide is the current access way?
Up here, current
No, no,
access.
down where they would park, parallel park, kind of that corridor.
Right through here.
Yeah.
How we have it proposed with the design, I believe it's 30 feet in width. So there is a little bit of room there. It provides 24 feet of traveled way plus a shoulder on either side, a striped shoulder. So we're looking at that.
Is, on the upper right, as you come through the parking area, that's in white, is that the dumpster?
That would be a dumpster.
Okay. Because I know there's two there now, isn't there?
Yeah, right next to the white one, there's another one there. There's a recycling and a
Yeah.
standard. Yep.
Any other questions on the board? Let me just run by the results of the memo. I think you've got a copy of them, Clarkson's memo.
Yeah, I don't know that I brought it, but I did read it. Yep.
Okay, let me just, because I think your overview was spot on in terms of the three alternatives and the agreement to the tree box, which is the preferred one. But it says, no, the committee, here's the results of the meeting. The committee has no objection to the strategy using tree boxes and concur that this option likely minimizes the ecological impact when compared to two other options. And I was at the meeting, and I think that's a fair assessment. The committee asked Mr. Ford or any subsequent owner of 50 Country Way to properly maintain not only the tree boxes, but accept full responsibility, financial and otherwise, for the stormwater leaching pit, which, from what I understand, it's the verbal agreement, formal agreement yet to come. The owner of the bakery will provide Mr. Ford the access needed to properly maintain the stormwater leaching pit. So that'd be part of the document. Committee asked that Mr. Ford and Ms. Tapara provide the town with written evidence that each understand the responsibilities outlined above, and each will notify any subsequent owner of the properties of this ongoing arrangement. That's your special clearing.
Yes.
And an easement confirming these ongoing arrangements will be written into the deed of both properties.
Again, my specialty.
I wasn't going to nail you down on everything.
Yeah.
So it looks like the concerns from the Water Resource Committee have been addressed. You have comments?
Yeah, I had a couple things. I guess, starting with the Water Resources Committee, I think their memo is great as far as it goes, but one thing that John Chesia had mentioned was he wasn't sure that DEP would accept additional stormwater being absorbed within the Zone A, and I don't know if there had been any attempt to contact them to go over that.
Yeah, I did send a letter in for DEP requesting additional information on that, and I have not gotten a response on it. But from what I can tell you is my experience with DEP is on a redevelopment project, as long as you're not increasing the stormwater, I believe they're going to find that this is an acceptable approach. As
Okay,
we're not
well-
increasing it, but I will get you something when I get something, Laura.
Okay, I'm just asking for the board. With the historic and the discussion with Morning Glories, do you want comments from me now, or do you want me to hold off?
Well, why don't we get them now? 'Cause that's the
Okay.
next thing we're going to address.
Okay. On the preservation of the building, I think one of the points that had been raised in the board's discussion was if this was really part of, big part of the public benefit, was it really enough of a public benefit if the building could not be preserved and some kind of replica or building that looked, somewhat similar in character or, somewhat historic was constructed instead? And that's something I think the board really needs to determine. But going with the premise that it's important to try to preserve the building that's there, my impression was that what the board was looking for was a really objective opinion on whether that could be done. And to go through that, I had looked into getting the names of some historic preservation architects, and I came up with about 10 of them. Some of them didn't seem like, some of them were from big firms that seemed like they might be expensive. Others were like small shops that people had dealt with a lot on the municipal side of things and had good opinions about, and I had forwarded those. Now, I know that you mentioned that Mr. Sandell had given an opinion. When he weighed in on this, on the planner's listserv, he said that he didn't think he would be qualified because he was connected with the project. So I guess I'm not sure which way he's leaning, if he's not qualified or if he is qualified, and then what the opinion of the planning board is with respect to that. So I think that needs to be sorted.
I don't think that, I don't think that Mr. Sandell suggested that he wasn't qualified to make that determination. As a
Did you read
registered
what he
architect.
said?
What's that?
Did you read what he wrote?
No, but I
Okay.
think he's qualified. I think what you had brought up was he may have a conflict of interest because he has worked on the project, so.
Yeah, that's what he had said.
Yeah.
I didn't mean qualified professionally, I
Yeah,
just
well-
meant qualified overall.
I know, but for the record, I just wanted to, submit, I worry about words, so to suggest that he's not qualified, because that's the person that we've contacted and relied upon. So I think that the easy way out is, the reason that we got into that discussion in the first place was because we didn't know if the building could be preserved, or we weren't willing to acquiesce to the suggested condition that we would have to preserve the building. So I think to make this a lot easier is, we're willing to do that now. We know that we can preserve the building, and we're going to do that. So it really, it almost seems academic to go through any further research or analysis, because we're willing to guarantee that we will preserve the building. It'll be part of the condition of the special permit, and we have to do that. Not reconstruct it, not fix it up, but preserve that building.
The big part of it was talking to the building mover himself, and he spent a lot of time in the building, and he said, this is not a problem, moving this building. And Jim's, analysis, I mean, he loves to preserve all buildings. He said sort of a specialty of his. And he's just thrilled that, that we can in fact move it and maintain the integrity of the building. We really, there's going to be dramatic change to the interior, of course, because, it's just not functional. But the building itself, what you would be seeing from the street, will look the way it's always looked, and maybe a little bit better.
So that,
Did he give you any financials on the cost of
I have the
renovating
cost
it?
estimate to move it, right.
I wasn't talking about moving it, I was talking about renovation and preservation of the building, and bringing the systems up to code, making it handicap accessible.
But how does that factor into the board's decision if we agree to condition a special permit that will preserve the building? So if it
I
costs
guess
us.
because down the line, if it's really not feasible, someone's going to be coming in here. If it's not Mr. Ford, then maybe somebody who purchases the project and asking for that condition to be waived or removed because it's financially not feasible to do it.
And that may be, but they're going to have a pretty high bar to jump over to get there if the board's already determined that the special permit was conditioned upon that building being preserved. So I don't think we should have to fight a battle that isn't yet come before us.
Well, I think it's a reasonable subject to talk about and to think about, because I think
guess-
what the board's concerned is, what is the long-term, the final result going to be? So, given that that's, part of what they normally think about, I'm thinking this would be sort of a very reasonable thing for them to be thinking about.
Yeah, at least from my standpoint, the relocation, preservation of that building is really the hinge pin of not only the benefit, but the project. So I think that's why I think hopefully, I've instilled it at least in the lore, maybe the rest of us too, is at least where my thoughts are in terms of that building. I mean, I don't want to sit there and have you come back and say, geez, Bill, it's going to cost me $750,000 to sit there and make this thing work. Right. My response is your $750,000 that you've already agreed to spend.
What's probably more likely, if we run into huge obstacles, is we may come back and ask if we can keep the whole building there and alter our plan up front. You've seen before, you saw on an earlier plan that was up there, we had a single-unit retail building in the front, low level, and then kept the building in place. Our backup plan would be to go in that direction and keep the entire building there. Right now, when we're replicating, we're only taking about a third of the building. 2/3, are missing. You've got the main portion, you've got the connector, and then you've got the barn portion. The connector and the barn will be gone. Okay, that's not part of the movement. There's no room. You cannot move all of that up front and still be within the setbacks. So it's only that front left-hand side third of the building. And when we remove the connector, we're dealing with that wall side, half of that wall side will be, half its integrity will have to be, corrected. But the interior there, it's a one-bedroom apartment on one side and a studio on the other, and a historic staircase. It'll probably be more functional as office space or something else. And of course, it'll have to come up to codes for an office and all of that. But there'll be a historic presence there. And as I say, if we come back, and if for some reason, we may come back and just say, you know what, we'd like you to reconsider and we show an alternate plan. But for the present, we are very comfortable that we can do this. Jim has supervised these before. He knows what he's doing. And the mover has confirmed it, so we're ready to go.
So why would we need an alternate plan? You're saying you're going to do this? You're saying you're going to accept the condition to do it?
Right.
So there's no coming back and asking for an alternate plan?
No.
Well, I think it's prudent always to have a plan B in your back of your mind, no matter what.
Well, our plan B is to start over,
Yeah.
right? If we're not preserving the building, then what are we doing? I mean, we're conditioning this as part of the public benefit for the special permit.
Right.
We're saying we think that public benefit is so important that we would preserve the entire building, and that's and you've seen previous plans which have been before. One time we showed a bank building up front with a circular drive, and we could return to that, but we don't see that as likely happening. But we're very comfortable that we can achieve all of this.
And certainly if this is a condition that's, the public benefit, again, we don't have any intent, but if there is a Plan B, which is always there, then the board would have the right to demand some other public benefit that would be, like kind or maybe more. You know what I mean? So it's not like it would go away. Oh, we're just going to take the building down because it's $750,000 that Mr. Limbacher had suggested. We can't do it. All right, well, what else are you going to do then? Okay, now the door's open again to discuss what public benefit is necessary to allow the project to go forward. It doesn't just evaporate. So your decision tonight or at the next meeting to condition the permit on our commitment to preserve the building is great for today. But we can sit here, nobody has a crystal ball to determine what could happen, years from now or when someone else comes along. And it's understandable to be, thinking about that, but the reality
I
is
hear
you
what you're
hold all the
saying, but I
cards.
think what Laura was getting at and what we were sort of getting at was, let's have a pretty good sense of what it's going to cost and that it can be done. And I hear you saying it can be done.
Yeah.
I don't hear you saying you kind of know what the upset limit is in terms of what you're going to spend.
I don't
If
think
$750,000 is a good number, then that's the number, right?
We don't think it's going to be that expensive, frankly.
How much do you think it'll be?
We're not dealing with that much square footage in that portion of the building. And so it's not like it's a relatively small component of the building. It's probably, 2,500 square feet or something. It's like a two-level townhouse, that portion. So there isn't that much involved in bringing that interior up to code. And the exterior will remain intact. So it isn't that prohibitive.
Plus, you're going to end up redoing the interior, so if anything happens to it during the movement, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But I guess where I'm coming from is, I'm interested in one plan, I'm not interested in Plan A, Plan B.
Well, that's the plan that's
So-
before you today, which is
Once we've
preserving the
conditioned
house.
this as, and that's one of the conditions, what are the practical and, precedent reasons to come back in and try and overturn it? I mean, is there why wouldn't the board just say no? That's a condition, you know?
I think that's where-
Don't bother
that's
us
where I was
again.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and we've had that situation happen before, where we said no.
I mean, once you've agreed to that as one of the conditions, it's binding on any other future purchaser, I would imagine. And why would we consider rescinding it? We wouldn't.
I don't think we would. I think the other thing we've got to be concerned about and make sure that we understand is the timing of the actual movement of the building in the beginning of the rehab. Because I think that should be an upfront as opposed to in the middle or at the end. I don't know.
Well,
I would think,
we've addressed that before. There's a question of relocating tenants, and there are tenants in that building, and one of our reasons for wanting to do that last was so we could have apartments that the tenants could move into, rather than having to tell them all to go off and fend for themselves. But if we do have to do that, we have to do it, but...
Maybe you could condition it on constructing one of the two residential elements prior to the moving of the building to have, you know, not both. That way we give the board some leverage to make sure that that happens, and the project doesn't just get the two new residential buildings and then nothing happens out front.
Yeah, that's exactly what my fear is.
And that we do have an example of
Faced that
that.
already.
Yeah.
So what I'm suggesting is where we have, you know, the opportunity to potentially, right, I mean, build one of them first and then
Right.
transfer. I mean, we're going to lose out because there's an economy and scale, be able to do these things together, you do all the foundation work, but at least we could finish and get an occupancy permit on one building before we get, you know, before we move the historic building and remove those tenants from, you know, their homes. I think the board has some ability to leverage
Yeah.
that timing concept.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a discussion for another night, but as I say, that's one of the concerns that I have. I just want to make sure that you're aware of. Anything else from the board on that? Are we comfortable with the assurance that it can be and will be moved?
I mean, if we make it a condition,
Well, it
then
has to be.
the project depends on it.
Oh, right.
Well, and, I mean, I'm certainly not an expert, maybe Bob can chime in here, but from what I see from the exterior of the building, it's not like it's some incredibly Victorian, with lots of detail that's fallen into disrepair, that's going to be like amazingly expensive to renovate, where like everything's rotted out. I mean, it looks like it's actually in pretty good shape, from at least exterior-wise. So I would concur that I don't think it's going to be a huge gotcha to preserve that and move it. At least that's my gut reaction. I don't know if you have any feelings on that, Bob?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. It's my gut reaction that it's very doable and that it's not going to be an undue burden to, whether it's Chris or whoever ends up doing this development. At the least, you're saving framing, you're saving subfloors, you're saving sheathing, you're saving a bunch of stuff that ought to count against the cost of the same number of square feet built brand new. So, I'm not uncomfortable with this at all.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that as long as we condition it properly, I feel comfortable that can be done in a reasonable, for a reasonable amount of money that's not undue burden on the developer.
Yeah, I think what we heard is that that's the case, that they're prepared to commit to that. They already know what the costs are going to be in the approximate range anyway. And so it's just making the permit condition reflect that. And I think also reflect what Bill mentioned, which was make sure it gets done before everything else gets built and it never gets done.
Yeah, because unfortunately, we've had that be an issue in other developments, so.
Is there a little time to address the discussion with Morning Glories and the traffic?
Yep.
One of the concerns that some town officials have with this development is that there are some concerns about traffic and traffic congestion, the amount of traffic that is generated by morning glories being kind of, becoming more congested and more difficult as far as circulation when you've got people from 30 apartments all trying to get to work in the morning while people are going in and out trying to get their pastry and, what have you at Morning Glories, which is a pretty busy spot. And I heard you talking about the parallel parking along the driveway of Morning Glories, and I just wanted to suggest to the board that if there were further changes to this whole parking scheme, that I really think those need to be looked at by some kind of traffic, through some kind of traffic review, similar to what you've already had, because it's kind of a real free-for-all over there now, and there are a lot of people that I think are not comfortable with the present situation, and people are parking on the 50 Country Way side right now. They're parking in front of the building, alongside the building, kind of all over the place, and that's obviously going to have to change. But if there are additional people kind of parking up the travel lane, I just would hope that the board would encourage them, not to assume that they can add parking spaces or change around the pattern once the pattern gets approved. I think it's really one site you're looking at for traffic and for parking.
Just a clarification, the request for the parallel parking, did that come from Morning Glories per se?
I missed the first part.
The parallel, you had mentioned that the potential for the parallel parking, did that request come from Morning Glories?
It did, actually.
Yeah.
They have people parked now.
Yeah, well, see,
Yeah, maybe there's just nothing you can do about it, but I wouldn't want to encourage that too much.
I think that could present a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Right now, they are parking along the side, which you're not supposed to park up against that, it's the fire lane.
Right.
Yeah.
And people do park out here. What we've incorporated, again, this is not our most current layout, but if you do flip to our most current layout, you'll see that we're providing on our side a total of 11 new spaces on this side. And what we told Morning Glories is we're not going to restrict these spaces just for our tenants. These would be, if someone's pulling in, these spots here would be open for Morning Glories use as well. So I agree, right now there's no definition in the back for parking. You look at if they integrate a layout like this, coupled with our 11 new spots along here, I think they're going to have, a tremendous improvement.
Yeah, because there's no...
Aren't you going to have,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Bob.
Well, no, I was just saying, being in there quite frequent, there's no parking lot out back, so there's no...
Right.
Everyone kind of feels like I got to be up near the building, whereas if they had this with some islands and some definition, they could say, oh, I can park out back and walk along that nice wide sidewalk up to the front. So, right now, it's just a dirt lot.
Right. And I think the peak hours for Morning Glories are offset from the peak hours of what we're anticipating, for office use during the day. When our traffic engineer reviewed the site, they did take peak counts, they took drive-through counts for Morning Glories, they took all of that, and then they took weekend counts into consideration as well. That's some of the data that they collected in that initial report we submitted.
Are there going to be marking for the spots? Yours
Well, I think they're going to have
usually
to.
striped, right?
Striped, yeah.
But with this...
But aren't you going to have demand for those 11 spaces? How do they end up becoming Morning Glory parking spaces?
What we're saying is we don't know who our tenants ultimately are going to be, but if we have office tenants in there that are coming in at 9 o'clock, Morning Glories, typically their peak in the morning is much earlier as people are going to work. Their peak is more between the 7 and 9 crowd.
And the office people will be parking in that larger lot between the two buildings.
Behind, yeah.
Right. And tenants, residential tenants will be gone during the day, so we don't anticipate that that's going to be a problem allowing.
I think it's pretty reasonable to think that people going to Morning Glories are going to want to park closer to the door because they're going to want to run in, run out.
Yeah. We'll use all those spaces first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree. And I don't disagree.
People from the offices are going to be parking in back of Morning Glories at the same time, so.
I think that the concept is
Depending on what's in the,
those 11 spaces
That
are open
building,
for
too.
retail customers, throughout the day, whether
Right.
it's a office visitor or a Morning Glories. It's just, I guess, I hate to use the word, but they're sort of fungible, they're in and out and easier to use. But I don't disagree that the two parallel spots, they don't, I'm not a traffic expert, but they seem to get in the way to me, to the drive-through, they get in the way of the whole main drag. I know that was a request, and I'm sure
Yeah.
Greg will look at it and talk to the traffic engineer, but it would be my inclination that the traffic engineer probably won't recommend it, and then we'll have to go back to them and say, look, we can't do that. And then we would continue to tell them about the other parking spaces that are available, and that I think that it would be wrong to put those two spaces in from, even if the traffic engineer said they could. I don't think it's good for their business. I think, as Mr. Green pointed out, you're more apt to park in the back if you have that walkway to walk up, a nice sidewalk to walk up to the front, as opposed to two cars with a little, spot in a fire lane. So we'll do what we can, obviously, to placate their concerns and maximize the parking for them. But I think the comment was made that it's chaos down there. And I think it's chaos because there's no definition to where anybody's supposed to go. I go in there from time to time too, and I don't know where to park. Half the time there's a giant box truck in the back, in the middle of the parking lot, and I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do. So I think that our plan, it'll really help direct the traffic flow in such an orderly fashion that we will be able to handle the more cars that are going to be generated by the development, and not even in a better way than the cars that we handle now, because it's so chaotic.
Is there any thought to signage, more parking for Morning Glories, behind the store?
Yeah. I think we
or-
talked about some signage last time. Sure, we'd be willing to do something like that, to help direct the people to where they need to go, no doubt.
Yeah, I guess my concern is if the 11 spots are available, they're available, because on the retail side, on your side of the parking lot, right, the reality is if you've got no parking, then they aren't going to come to whatever your retail is,
Right,
right?
yeah.
But I don't want to do anything that impacts what Morning Glory's current parking capability is now.
Right.
You know,
Personally, I actually think their proposal would be better for Morning
increases-
Glories by far, personally, but
I think the comment was made down, maybe Laura said, that people are going to likely park over there first, and that the 11 spaces will end up being kind of overflow. They may be parking there, unfortunately, before they park in the back in Morning Glories, because it's perceived to be less convenient, because you can just walk across and go in the front door, but nonetheless, maybe at that point, after this plan goes into place and we find that it's not working, but the parking spots in the back are vacant all the time, maybe we ask Morning Glories to, hey, can we put some of our office staff back there so that, you guys, because you guys are using the spots out front more. They seem to be amenable to making this work, because I do think they see the benefits. So.
Okay. Anything else, Laura?
No. Thank you.
Okay. I think we've done a pretty good job of at least going through my checklist. Anybody else got a checklist?
Just wondering, you were talking about schedule and making sure this Building A, including the historic portion, got done at some point sooner rather than later in the project. Would that be a condition that we would consider putting on the project along with the other conditions?
From my standpoint, yes.
Okay.
I think the applicant has suggested that.
Are conditions bondable?
Or conditions.
In other words, could a bond be posted to ensure that that happened?
I think so.
It's pretty serious, losing them and losing bond. No, why don't we not?
So that might be something to consider,
Yeah.
After the first 5
And the bond could also
the new unit.
speak about restoration of the existing historic structure. So if that, if that's a condition that we feel is the linchpin to the project.
Once the building A is complete.
Okay.
So, anyway, just the,
I think they're good thoughts. I haven't figured out exactly how the conditions all get written, but
Building C will be one, this one.
I think it makes sense to condition is not only the general timing,
Plenty of space for the whole building.
right, but put restrictions on the ultimate timing for it.
So,
I mean, if worse came to worse, and I'm not saying this would ever happen, but
these aren't covered.
developer came in here,
So,
started building this thing, went bankrupt.
it'll all be done.
Right.
It's just-
When you had a bond in place, at least maybe that could run towards the restoration or doing something for the public good in the front part of the project. if it were
Preserve the public good.
If it were the back part of the project that had been built up. Okay,
I'm sure we can wordsmith something to that effect.
yeah.
Okay.
Another quick question on the public benefit. And maybe you've already said this, and I can't quite remember, but when you tie into that back trail that goes along the back insulation, or whatever, sound barrier, I actually walked through there and took a bunch of pictures for the planning board. Where is or who is responsible for that maintenance? Does it go down to the end of your property? Is that where the maintenance would be on that? Like, for instance, or is it just the connection over to the trail? It's like who, because I noticed sometimes, well, the actual trail, I don't know if we want to call it, that goes along the sound barrier. As I walked, there were parts that seemed like they really weren't maintained very well.
So right now, I don't have the answer on who maintains that trail. Right now, the trail starts on Driftway across from Dunkin' Donuts, and it comes up. It's a paved trail. It ends at the end of Drew Place. We were proposing to extend that trail up here to our lot. That's actually on the right-of-way with the MBTA. The MBTA owns that trail. They own that land. From what I understand, DPW has some sort of ownership responsibility for the trail. And we discussed with DPW the extension of it, and we ended up submitting a letter to the MBTA requesting permission to construct that trail there. We're awaiting for their final approval to extend that. But I believe it's DPW that would be responsible for the maintenance of that trail system that's on the MBTA land. We would obviously be responsible for the connection out to
Right.
Countryway.
I
Now-
can find out for sure.
Okay, because I also noticed along the actual sound barrier, there were lights, kind of, and would those lights continue? Like, would it be well lit?
Yeah,
Because
we
it's a
were-
little, I mean, even during the day, it's a little scary. I wouldn't.
Well, the best thing you could do is get the MBTA to move all those, rail ties or whatever that got stacked up. Makes it like a corridor.
Yeah, well, I mean, that barrier, I mean, the sound wall is pretty high.
I think once you get a lot of traffic on that trail, which I would anticipate now that it actually has a beginning and an end point, and it's going to have 30 more apartments feeding it, I think the trail maintenance is going to actually go down after you do an initial trim back. I think the vegetation will stand back a little bit more.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
So now that we've gone through my list, when we'll go through your list. So you can update us on what the changes are in the drawings.
10 minutes, okay. All right.
Here's John's letter.
Yeah. I guess, do we want to run through the special permit part?
We
That's a good
didn't
question.
have John come tonight because we didn't think you were going to do drainage tonight.
Okay,
Should we wait for that?
well, we can wait for that.
That's a good question.
Okay.
Want to do the subdivision first?
Yeah. I mean, I
So
guess,
Well, we were gonna, the question is would you like us to go through the punch list for the definitive subdivision plan or the special permit? What would you prefer first?
I would think the special permit,
okay.
All right.
So the special permit project,
because the definitive is going to be, it's the plan that's never going to be built. Paid for, unfortunately, but never built.
so really with the special permit, John's latest letter is dated July 16th. It's based off of revised plans that we submitted. To address his previous comments, we made significant revisions to the drainage system, revisions to the parking, to the layout, to the grading of the site, to the dumpster locations. And I believe John's letter, if you read through it, agrees with the majority of the drainage on the site. I would say it agrees with the drainage on the site. But he does mention a number of things in here that say that the board should discuss, and those are really the items. I just want to run through his letter and kind of address each one with him. If you flip to his letter, page 6, 560.2, permitted uses, it says the underlying zoning district allows a multifamily dwelling as of right, but not a multifamily complex of more than one building. The board should address this issue. And I think Steve is prepared to comment on that.
Yeah, I submitted a letter earlier today to Laura. I don't know if everybody got it, but,
No, I didn't get it.
oh, I'm sorry, I sent it to you via email, but here's the original.
What time did you send it?
It was probably before I left the office, around 4:30, 4:45.
Okay, we close at 4:45.
Sure. It's possible. So the next three, I guess it's the next three comments, 560.1, .2, .3, and .4 are addressed in my letter. Mr. Chessier had raised the issue last meeting, actually the meeting that we had down at the community center, that he was concerned that the bylaw didn't allow for a few of the elements in our proposal. So, and he continues to put in his letter, the board must address the issue. I think it was suggested at that time that the bylaw itself, may not be as artfully worded as it needs to be to accommodate what the purpose is. So my letter starts by, I'm not going to reread it, but it starts by going through the purpose clause, which is 560.1, which I can give you just the highlights, is provide for higher density mixed use and multifamily housing, and multifamily housing in village areas, provide for a variety of residential housing and development patterns. So essentially, what the applicant's position is that the bylaw as it stands today and the discretionary power of the board has the authority to grant the relief as requested to allow for mixed-use building and then separate residential dwelling buildings. As you know, in this district, the multifamily residential buildings are allowed, and the overlay district preserves those underlying uses as a matter of right or by special permit, and then, of course, the special permit process. He focuses on the word "a" mixed-use building may be permitted by a special permit. But what it doesn't say is that, it does say that, and that a mixed-use building can be permitted by a special permit, but it doesn't say that more than one mixed-use building can't be permitted by a special permit on a single lot. So I'm doing a very similar type rewriting of the zoning, their PMUD overlay in Marshfield, similar to this, and they call them elements. And I think if you look at the purpose of the bylaw, and then you go down to look at the permitted uses, you have to look at it in an element-type standpoint, and that is sort of the element meaning our development, the lot. The lot itself has a mixed-use building, it has individual multifamily buildings, it complies with the bylaw as it stands. Do I think that if there's an opportunity to kind of clarify the bylaw at some point in the future, maybe that would be a good idea, but I think as it stands right now, my letter identifies the applicant's position with respect to the board's authority to grant a special permit for this project in this capacity. And you really have to look to the purpose, that first paragraph of the purpose of the Village Business Overlay District, to truly embrace and understand the permitted uses. And I think that's key when you look at this and you decide to vote in favor of the project. But I apologize that the letter didn't get out to you. I will gladly send it again or provide more copies. I only brought one extra copy, but I would be happy to address any other issues at the next meeting if that is the case.
I think all these issues were one of the reasons why the planning board brought the bylaw change to the last town meeting.
Yeah.
Because the bylaw used to talk about mixed-use buildings, and now it talks about giving a special permit for a mixed-use development, meaning that there are going to be multiple buildings, and it explains that in the definitions. So I think you did a good job, with that problem.
Yeah.
It was a problem, but now, I think the board kind of found their way through that.
John
Looks like
seems
the
to
way it's
be
written,
still
it
focused on that as a
Well,
problem, so
yeah,
that's
but,
why I'm trying to address it, to
Yeah.
suggest that it's no longer a problem, but,
Guess I don't
I
even
think
see
we
this.
agree.
Yeah, I don't see it as an
this
issue.
statement where it says a mixed use.
It's in John's letter.
Oh,
Looking at
it's
John's
John,
letter.
it's in his letter, but it's not in the
It's not in the
bylaw, and I
bylaw.
think...
The new
Yeah, they
bylaw.
haven't been reading it for zoning, they've been
Oh,
reading it for
okay,
engineering.
560.4 says, one or more mixed-use buildings, which may also include additional buildings containing only multiple dwellings, and including no other use, so I think
So it's
that
not an issue?
clarifies it.
Great.
Yeah.
What's an issue, you resolved it.
It was an
Check
easy,
that one off.
easy
Yeah.
resolution.
There we go.
Check.
Okay.
So the next one John brings up that he defers to the board is page 11 on his letter. Section 610.1 has to do with lot area and width requirements. It says the minimum lot area is 10,000 square feet. The lot exceeds this requirement. The minimum lot width where a dwelling unit should be located at the narrowest point is required to be 100 feet. Building A, which is the building that we're relocating, we do have a dwelling unit on the second or third floor in this building. Lot width in the town of Scituate is measured parallel to the lot's frontage. We were measuring frontage with respect to Stockbridge Road, and if you measure the lot width with respect to the frontage, we have the 100 feet in width. John is saying that we should measure lot frontage according to Country Way, in that we do not have the requisite 100 feet through that dwelling unit at that location. And defers to you on the issue. Building inspector Neil Duggan, I believe, issued a statement that frontage could be measured along Stockbridge Road for this project. And so we just want clarification that the lot width complies through building A.
I don't know if I've seen anything written from Neil on it, but I know that I've talked it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna look and see.
Yeah, I thought that came up in another meeting that we discussed it.
Yeah, I think it did. Yeah, I don't see anything in writing from Neil, but I know he talked about using
We were both
Stockbridge.
there when we had the discussion.
Yeah.
I was there as well.
So
Yep.
can we put that one to bed?
So what's the, sorry, I'm missing this. So we're saying that the frontage road we're talking about is not where the entrance is, it's
The frontage,
the inaccessible piece?
right, the frontage is required to be a minimum of 60 feet in this district. In Country Way, we do not have the requisite 60 feet of frontage, it has 50 feet. We've taken our frontage for the project as complying along Stockbridge Road, which is in excess of 100 feet of frontage that we have. So where we take that as our legal frontage, we read the definition of lot width, which says it's a measurement that's parallel to the lot's frontage. And so therefore, it would comply through building A. John is saying we should be looking at the width with respect to Country Way.
Then there's some further definition of frontage.
Well, the frontage really isn't a problem. I think the only problem is the lot width, and I'm just
Yeah.
looking in the 610 to
Measure frontage. You have to measure. from the front.
610-1,
Back from the frontage. To the, yeah,
which says,
I think it's in 410 or something. It's just 410.
okay, well, they talk about a dwelling having to have lot width, and GB, HB, and C have 100 feet of lot width where the dwelling, or I guess if he's interpreting it, multiple dwellings would be constructed. So I guess it depends on where the dwelling area is in that first building.
So that first building does have a residential component right along the front face along Country Way. And so the frontage definition we're reading is 610.1. It says lot width shall be measured between the side lot lines and parallel to the lot frontage.
On a corner lot, Laura, can you choose which frontage or which street is your frontage, and therefore, your front yard setback and that sort of thing?
Well,
You have
the
to
question on this one was because the frontage on Stockbridge Road is a little bit illusory because it's hard to use.
No,
but
understood,
We
but it's
had
a-
the whole conversation that it was okay.
It's not access,
And
but
there
it is
wasn't going to be a
frontage.
problem, and I think we really talked this through pretty well.
Yeah.
No, I think,
Fine with me.
I think the question was if I had a corner lot, which provides my frontage?
Oh, they're both either,
Both considered
yeah.
Yeah, all right,
You have to
so-
maintain the front yard setback on both streets.
Both sides.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
And then the lot width would, I suppose you could measure it from either one.
Either
because you have
one,
frontage
right.
on both, but you have to comply with one or the other.
okay,
Yeah.
great. That's what I thought.
So it's a non-problem.
Okay.
Let's do one more and then figure out where we're going to go.
Okay, this one here, page 16 of John's letter, he's talking with respect to the dumpsters. We're proposing dumpsters on the southeastern corner of the lot down here. John was concerned that a trash truck coming up would have to back up to exit the site. The distance it would have to back up is in a straight line. It's approximately 120 feet that the dump truck, or the truck would have to back up. We didn't think that that was an unreasonable design. I think what John was requesting was he was asking for a turnaround of some kind around the dumpsters. If you look around, morning glories, you have the same type of thing. You're hitting a dumpster in the front, you're backing up, and you're going out. You have to remember the length of the trash truck here is going to take up 3 to 4 parking spaces, so the trash truck is going to take up that much. It's backing up 3 times its length to then swing and pull out. John asked if that is acceptable. He deferred to the board on that issue.
But wouldn't it back up to go to the dumpster?
It would either back up to go to the dumpster or back up away from the dumpster, whether it's a front loader or...
But yeah, I mean, a lot of trash trucks, right.
Oh, that's right.
Are front loaded. Pick them from the front. I don't have a tremendous problem with that. I think these people are used to maneuvering in tight spaces. Those drivers are hopefully well-trained and competent for this kind of a situation. It does bring up something else in my mind, though, speaking about it. What's the dumpster's allocation for Building C?
Well, what we were proposing is having internal trash chutes inside the building, so then someone would be removing trash out of the building, putting it in a dumpster. That would be part of the management of the property.
Okay.
That's what it was.
So the dumpsters that are shown on the southern part of the property line, those 2 sets, would serve Building B and Building A, essentially. Would those be the receptacle, what am I trying to say? Would somebody in management do the same thing for Building B, for example? There'd be an internal
Yeah, I think
trash room, and then that would just be taken out and loaded into those dumpsters?
That's the goal.
Okay.
He said that'd be my job.
Yeah, I guess I don't see a problem with it. You watch those guys, they're wizards.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's reasonable.
If you look at, was it Public Alley 821 off of Exeter Street in Boston or something?
Yeah, right, yeah.
Well, and I was going to say, even if you did provide a turnaround, likely they wouldn't use it.
Yeah, they back up, 'cause it's easier to back up straight.
Yeah, the only worrisome part there is that that's part of the trail there too. People are gonna be walking across there. So the guy's gonna be backing up.
And then the last one is on page 20. It's in regard to the reuse of our leaching catch basins at the front of the site. John makes the comment, the design would result in no increase in impervious area to the leaching pits and would meet the DEP requirements for redevelopment. The town stormwater bylaw does not have provisions for redevelopment. It is not proposed to relocate the existing pits out of the Zone A or improve groundwater separation. In reading the stormwater bylaw references the DEP standards, the DEP does have a provision for redevelopment. The stormwater bylaw has a definition of redevelopment specifically. The definition of redevelopment is any construction, alteration, or improvement where the existing land use zoning is commercial, industrial, including transportation, institutional, or multifamily residential. So I think in the stormwater bylaw, we certainly do have a redevelopment clause that's specifically built in here, and I think that is one of the reasons why we are allowed to reuse those leaching pits. John defers, I think, to the board on this issue. I wish he was here to discuss it further. But that's really the
We
only
weren't sure,
outstanding.
we weren't sure we were going to get through my list, let alone start on yours.
That's the last item on my list. We're really close here, I think, to an ending.
You need to comment on the,
No, I defer to John.
we need to continue this. Which you suggested is the 25th of September. Looks like I've got, tentatively, I've got the Riverway on at 7:30. I'd have to put you on for 8. Does that work? Does that work? Does that work for you, gentlemen? Okay, so we're planning for an hour.
Patriots might be playing that night.
Your choice.
Then make it 45 minutes. Yeah.
We could convene at the stadium if that makes it easier.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, accommodations were made.
Yeah.
The EMC suite would be fine, thank you.
Okay, so we'll make it 8 o'clock on 25th.
Why don't we just get creative and...
Is there any chance that could be a final meeting, is there a way to kind of prognosticate? Are we getting close, do you think?
Yeah, I think we're getting close. I think we made good progress in terms of at least going through my list on it. And I think that we need to do that. But what's going to take some time is writing the conditions and then going through.
Would it make sense to maybe start writing the conditions between now and then to kind of hammer out what we've already sort of gone through? That'll get us a big part of the way there.
Yeah, I don't know how that works out.
Okay.
What was being suggested, Laura, was, from Karen, is the possibility of working on conditions now prior to, in conjunction with
that's-
revision here.
That's
You far
doable.
enough along to do.
Yeah, that's doable.
Okay.
Thank you. I think it'd be helpful to get those things behind us so we can focus on what we have left.
What we'll try to do is to get them done like, maybe a week or so before, a week to 10
Yeah.
days before.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Because I don't think it's going to be your simplest,
Will you have
thing
some of
here.
these other things documented by then? The
Definitely. Oh, yeah.
agreements?
Yeah, with Morning
With
Glories
Morning Glories,
and
no.
walkway maintenance, and we'll try to get as much documentation in
Okay.
place as we can for you.
Okay, so this is both, right?
Yes.
Okay. I move to accept the applicant's request to continue the public hearings for the definitive subdivision plan for Greenbush Park at 50 Country Way and the mixed-use special permit in the Village Business Overlay District for 50 Country Way until September 25th, 2014 at 8 p.m. and to extend the time to file the definitive plan to October 31st, 2014.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda, by way of explanation, we're a few minutes late starting, so we're going to be a few minutes late on each one of these.
What's that?
Is the public hearing stormwater permit for 12 Moreland Road, applicants Jane Galvin?
Everybody brings their own easel.
Thank you.
Permanent thing.
It's a good election. One engineer, one travel,
Yeah,
one easel.
all right. Yeah, we depreciate the easel for every year.
Or rent it.
There you go.
And if you're like Angelo, then they have a special pen supply.
Exactly. I don't know, that's pretty special. Not everybody has that.
Have any of you been watching Extent with Halle Berry?
Extent.
It's a new show. It's supposed to be set 30 years in the future, but the point is, everyone's got the presentations all on the walls that you,
Oh, yeah.
like Minority Report,
yeah,
people are
yeah,
touching
yeah.
things.
Everybody's doing
moving things
prezzies
around.
all over the,
Exactly.
all over the ceilings.
So the fact that we're doing pen and paper is old school.
It really is.
Oh, terrifically old school. Unfortunately,
I'll tuck it back in here a little. Yeah.
so yeah, we've got our own copy here.
Yeah.
Not in color, but it's all right.
No, we'll
We're
survive.
living for the TV now. We're all living for our TV appearance.
I know.
There's a new house right
That's what I
here.
was trying to figure out, see
Yeah.
the neighborhood in my head.
Yeah. No, that's Parker Avenue. Maybe the house is, yeah, it's right in here. Yeah. That is just gorgeous.
Yeah.
Really, really
So
nice.
the floor belongs to you, sir.
And you see the
Introduce yourself.
whole North River.
Tell us what you're looking to do.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Greg Tansey. I'm with Ferris Engineering, and I represent my client, the applicant, the Galvins. What we're proposing to do is a simple raise and rebuild. As you can see, I've got an existing conditions plan here and proposed conditions side by side, just to make it convenient and easy. This stormwater permit was triggered not because of the square footage or anything like that, but just because we were disturbing more than 1,000 square feet of land with a grade of more than 15%. So it triggered the stormwater permit. Otherwise, I wouldn't, it wouldn't be necessary to be here. We're also, as you can see this green line, we're also in the Water Resource Protection District. As many of you know, the map was recently updated earlier this year, and it was expanded, and it's included in, it cuts through the site. To the north is the district, to the south it's not the district. And I'll just talk a little bit about the performance standards of the district. You can't have more than a steeper grade than 4:1 in the district. And I do have 3:1 grades out here just to minimize the amount of disturbance. But within the district, I've got some grading, a small amount, and it's 4:1. So it meets the performance standards. My ratio is well under 15%.
Yeah,
Actually,
just
it's
put like that,
8.6%.
Okay.
I'm not having any untreated discharges. I'm not, it's a residential development. It was then, it is now. I'm not dealing with mining activities. I'm not dealing with storage of chemicals or industrial usages that are labeled in that, in the bylaw for the district. And that's pretty much, it requires a 3-foot groundwater separation from the bottom of an infiltration system, and I've provided 4 feet. So for the Water Resource Protection District, we hands down meet those performance standards, and I have them listed here, 1 through 12. And as far as the stormwater permit itself, I'm proposing a pea stone gravel. It's a very ornamental type of driveway. We've used, a good example of the use of this would be on Border Street. I don't know if you remember Mr. Walsh a while back. He did a two-lot subdivision, or division of land right near the water off of Border Street, and he had a common driveway, and he used a cobblestone edging, and there's a nice landscape pea stone gravel. It looks beautiful. And as much as it looks well, it also has an environmental benefit. It doesn't generate runoff, it doesn't produce, you don't get any type of a high rate of nitrates or anything like that. And we're proposing the same thing here. And so that's going to minimize our impervious area, it's going to minimize the runoff, it's going to control runoff, it's going to treat runoff. Everything else, the roof drainage is all going to be on an infiltration system, and it's just your standard, your recharge chambers. I'm sure you're all familiar with them. They're the arched, ribbed plastic units, and downspouts with some overflows, splash pads, all standard residential application. And we have maintenance programs, the O&M plans, all the performance standards that was required to be met, we met, and it was reviewed by people on the Water Resource Protection District on that committee, and it was also reviewed by the DPW. And the latest report was everybody was on board and all set with it. So at this point, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to entertain them.
Thank you. Laura?
No, pretty much, just as Greg said, it's, partly in the Water Resource Protection District. Did you say 90% TSS removal? Maybe you said that already.
Yes.
There are a whole number of standards in there to meet, which are above and beyond the normal, normal stormwater standards. And this has been reviewed thoroughly. Sean McCarthy, the town engineers, looked at it. Karen's looked at it. Greg's gone back and said a few minor adjustments, and I think it's ready for you to approve.
Questions on the board?
I just have, it's not about the what's on the plan, but just the location is like, there right now, which is Parker Avenue, is that where they're building the new house? Beyond, it's behind that,
Yeah.
right?
Right to the west, right here.
Up in here.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, just wanted to clarify, that's what I thought it was.
It's kind of a wooden lot, right?
That's
Looking
gonna-
at two,
yeah.
It's pretty
just-
open.
Can you explain that you got two basins like side by side there? Or are they?
Right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just two basins. I cited them in that locality just for practical convenience and for, to make sure the hydraulics work.
Is it for all roof drains? Is that, both of them are for roof drains?
Actually, this bottom one here is, it's picking up any runoff that didn't quite infiltrate into the ground, and the soils are very good out here. But if it ran underneath the T-stone, I've got an infiltration trench, and that's, it's all detailed up in here. It's wrapped in filter cloth. You get some good,
Oh, it's like a French
good
drain thing?
treatment. Exactly.
Okay.
With an under drain, and it just routes it into the recharge units.
Okay, sounds good.
And just a clarification, all the existing driveway that's shown here, that would all be removed, right?
This portion right here, this is it's somewhat in a dilapidated condition, but it's a paved driveway. in the existing condition, and that's all coming out, that's gonna be removed. This driveway serving, this is Dr. Gary's residence. Technically, it was supposed to be put in Parker Ave, but it didn't. But there is talk about relocating it. If it does relocate it, all well and good. But my stormwater analysis assumed that it was gonna remain. So if it's removed out, it's all better.
Okay.
Sure. Is there an easement for this driveway, for that pass and repass?
No,
Okay,
no.
never mind.
But it's probably
Adverse possession.
at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
He would qualify, but I don't think it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah,
There's no indications at this point of that.
nice.
Any other questions from the board? Questions from the public? Any-
Driveway in, is the new house using the same driveway, extension of Parker? Is that considered the Parker Ave? What's now
That's-
paved?
Well, actually, this portion right here,
Yeah,
yeah, that's,
because it goes, we live just south of this lot.
down here.
Yeah, this
Okay.
part right here.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, so they share that driveway, don't they, going in?
Well,
The road, I mean, it's really hard.
there's a house
Up there, yeah.
opposite. They access it via this driveway as
Yeah.
well. This is the stub to this
To their
house.
house,
This
yeah.
extends out that way,
So technically, that's Parker Ave.
technically, yeah.
Because Michael Ave, which is south of our house, is sort of a dirt road that goes in, and I don't think it follows the way that it used to maybe.
It probably doesn't. I mean, just the way.
Yeah.
But the new access is off Moreland though, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Correct.
There'll actually be one fewer person using that driveway than is using it today.
That's correct.
One fewer family.
Right now, this house is
It's-
is accessed from Parker
It's
Ave.
for 3 houses now, and it will only end up being for 2.
Correct.
Yeah, that's good.
Karen, did you get the gentleman's name?
Alex Payne and Kathy Payne, P-A-I-N-E, 28 Moreland.
Thank
I
you.
have another question. That green line delineation, it's north of it seems to be the water, like the resource control.
Water
area.
Resource Protection District.
Why is it, that's higher up than everything below it, south of it?
That's correct.
Is it because is fresh water back in there, or is it because?
It has to do with, well, a number of reasons. It deals with tributaries and groundwater flows, as I understand it as
Okay.
well.
Yeah. It's not just surface
Both
water, it's
surface and ground,
wellhead protection
I
as
see,
well.
yeah. Which would be like an aquifer or something like
Correct.
back in there, yeah. Yeah, because there's a vacant lot back north of Parker. It's vacant, I think, all the way back to Driftway. And I don't know what's owns it, but anyways, that's interesting. So that's a substantially, somewhat larger than what's there now, that new house going in. I've seen that. Those catch basins, those, I don't know, those blue things you guys are talking about, are they underground?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes, they
so they just to collect and then it's perks into the soil.
That's
Flow
correct.
that, yeah,
Yes.
catch, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Motion?
You ready?
We have a motion.
Well, a long one.
Oh, dear.
Why was this so complicated?
Anything with stormwater, it's complicated.
All right. I move to approve the stormwater permit for 12 Moreland Road dated 7/11/2014 with revisions through 7/16/2014 with the conditions noted below. Number 1, construction shall comply with the stormwater permit application and report dated 7/11/2014 with revisions through 7/16/2014. Stormwater permit site plan and stormwater permit plan site details for 12 Moreland Road, erosion control site plan and erosion control details plan, 12 Moreland Road in Scituate, Massachusetts, dated 7/11/2014, with revisions through 7/16/2014 by Ross Engineering Company, Incorporated, except as may be modified to conform to the conditions below. Number 2, subsurface runoff recharge systems are proposed to provide infiltration and filtering. The drainage system results in post-development runoff characteristics including peak flow, total volume, and water quality equal to or less than pre-development runoff characteristics, according to the engineer's certification. 90% TSS removal is provided. The first inch of roof runoff is recharged. There is greater than 3 feet of separation to groundwater from leaching chambers. No slopes over 25% have been disturbed, and no finished grade slopes over 25% are proposed in the site area in the Water Resource Protection District. The bioretention areas shall be protected from compaction during construction. Number 3, the applicant shall meet all of the requirements of the Building Department, Board of Health, the Conservation Commission, DPW, Fire Department, and other town agencies, as well as all state and federal regulations. Number 4, prior to obtaining a foundation permit and any land disturbance, the site shall be staked to show the house and drainage improvements shown on the plan. The town planner shall be notified 48 hours in advance of any permit being requested so an inspection can occur. Number 5, the new driveway is proposed as pervious pea stone. Any change from the proposed materials shall result in a permit modification through the planning board. Any and all occupants of the home should be advised of this condition. Number 6, in order to ensure proper long-term maintenance of the stormwater management system, a signed single-family homeowners agreement regarding the operation and maintenance of a stormwater management system shall be provided to the planning board within 10 days of the approval of this permit and prior to the issuance of a building permit. Number 7, the existing bituminous concrete driveway and a stabilized construction entrance shall be required and installed prior to any work on the site. The stabilized construction entrances shall be as shown on the plan, and it shall be maintained throughout the construction to prevent sediment from reaching the road. All erosion control and the construction sequencing and operation shall be shown on the plan and maintained throughout construction. Additional erosion control, such as the silt fence and/or hay bales placed prior to a precipitation event, may be needed to prevent sediment from reaching the road, adjacent properties, or downstream wetland resources during construction. Number 8, no on-street parking or loading or unloading of construction equipment or vehicles shall be permitted during construction. Number 9, construction inspections will be provided as follows. A, all inspections for the town shall be performed by the town planner. All inspections shall be documented with written reports that describe compliance with the approved plans and supporting application documents and construction specifications. Any variations shall be noted. B, the town planner will be notified 48 hours prior to staking, installation of the drainage system, removal of the erosion control for removal of the existing driveway, and installation of the proposed pea-stone circular driveway and finished grading for the purpose of inspecting the work. C, the town planner shall be notified upon completion for an inspection to determine compliance with the conditions prior to issuing a certificate of completion, COC, indicating that the project has been completed in compliance with the conditions set forth in the stormwater permit and bylaw. D, any plan changes or changes from the proposed materials shall be submitted to the planning board to determine if the changes are insignificant or require a permit modification through the planning board. The stormwater management system approved shall not be changed without the prior written approval of the issuing authority. On to condition 10. An as-built plan stamped by a registered surveyor and registered professional engineer who designed the system shall be submitted to the planning board within 30 days of completion of the work. This plan shall include the construction conditions of the stormwater management system, grading, house, and driveway. The as-built plan must be submitted prior to obtaining a certificate of completion and a certificate of occupancy. 11, the homeowners are encouraged to use organic pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers. These may be found through the Northeast Organic Farming Association, NOFA, list of certified landscape professionals available on the website www.organiclandcare.net/AOLCP-search or similar. Pesticides and herbicides shall be used sparingly as directed. If professional application is used, pesticides shall be applied by a professional applicator licensed under the Massachusetts Department of Agriculture. Fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, and hazardous materials should be stored inside on an impervious surface in quantities no greater than necessary for household use. Where outside storage is necessary, covered containers must be used. 12. As noted in the single-family homeowners agreement, prior to the transfer of the property, the owner shall provide to the subsequent owner and the planning board an inspection report certified by a professional engineer as described above, showing compliance with the operation and maintenance plan. That's it.
Second.
Number 13 or 14? I have a second. All those in favor?
Mr. Chairman,
The-
I'd like to make a comment about number 4. Number 4 says, prior to obtaining a foundation permit in any land disturbance, the site shall be staked to show the house and the drainage improvements. The way the construction process would work is that the existing dwelling would be removed first, and the foundation, that'd be hauled away, and then the site would be graded to fill in the foundation hole if need be. What I'd like to do is to, if the board's agreement is to say that prior to obtaining the foundation permit, the site shall be staked to show the house and drainage improvements shown on the plan. Because to take that house down first would include some land disturbance around it.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
That's fine.
Fine. Get that change?
Yep.
Modified motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great.
Yes, you're all set, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You put us back on schedule.
See you down the hall.
It's going to be a nice,
It is.
Nice little cave.
It's quite a house going up right in back of it.
I know, it looks really nice.
You should,
The house that's, and your map is right
I
there.
don't know
Yeah.
if I want
That's
the
the house.
driveway.
you should
Did
see
you
the views.
telephone pole right in the middle of the
You up on the top floor.
No.
You need an
see-
assistant
I
inspector.
haven't
You can
driven
see
up
to
there.
head over,
Oh, you can see it
the
from
North
Moreland
River
Road?
goes forever.
Obviously.
Oh,
And then
the house?
the
No,
ocean's in
no,
the
the
other
driveway
direction.
with the telephone pole in the middle.
It's beautiful.
Well, the telephone pole is at Moreland Road.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's just,
See out
you
over the
know, I mean,
golf
it's one of
course,
those
you can see
funky
the
old
bridge
things
over
where
3A,
people
and
go
then
in
you
on
just
the
see
right and they
the
come
whole
out on
river
the left.
valley.
You know, if you've got 3 houses using it, that might not be so much fun anymore.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Oh, it's-
especially in the winter,
I
yeah.
haven't seen it. They're just looking to give them access up the back.
Yes.
Scott's going to give them 25 so they can put these.
And then, all the way around.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
South River, Spit, Atlantic Ocean, it's just,
I don't think there's any,
Okay.
when you come back to the north with us, there's just really nothing, it gets, kind of comes up and equals, but it's not
Yeah.
So it's,
higher.
no.
so it's now 9 o'clock. The next item on the agenda is a continuation of the public hearing for accessory dwelling special permit 345 Hadley Road. Now, Laura, I think you've heard from the applicant regarding his attendance?
Yeah, Mr. Ahern had a death in the family and isn't going to be here, but he had read the second set of conditions. He was very comfortable with them and didn't have any problem.
So with the applicant not being here, does the board have any concerns about continuing forth, having a vote and going through conditions?
On the conditions, I just thought we were saying that instead of being, cannot be habitable space, that we were going to require that the trusses,
Right.
or was that crazy to do?
No, I had that in my notes, too.
Yeah, I remember that too, and I didn't see how.
Pre-built trusses on whatever.
We talked about that a little bit, and then I guess we were wondering, why didn't we, we talked about this in the office. It seemed,
I think they were
I don't know, it
planning
seemed
on
a
putting his
little-
mechanicals up there.
yeah, that's
Oh,
part
that
of
was right
it.
Yeah,
too,
that was
along
part of
with
it.
the AC and stuff.
I mean, I'm not so sure why you wouldn't put your mechanicals in your garage. I mean, you're definitely above the floodplain.
Yeah.
I mean, if his garage gets wet, then, and that, but I think that was at least my thinking in terms of,
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't get too hung up on that. I mean, it was kind of,
I did drive
Funny
by there a
thought.
couple times, and it really is in the back. I don't think you'll even be able to see it much from the road, like we talked about.
I think it's only visible by that new house that's being built, really.
right.
And he said he's already talked to her, but we haven't heard anybody come in and say anything about it, so.
Yeah.
yeah, and then I had made the change, suggested that the number of bedrooms and the square footage stay the same. That was, I think, the latest change that came out bold.
Yeah. And then I think the only other thing was that we wanted to
I'm sorry,
change.
excuse me, Laura, I didn't get what Bill just said, so.
I think it's
I don't know.
the bolded is what was
The bold,
changed.
the bold
The
change,
bold is what you added?
yes.
Okay.
My
Oh,
intent
okay.
was to come back up and basically identify that it's 2 bedrooms, the bedrooms would be the same size as they are now, and to be located as they are.
It says
So
three.
it should say 2, not 3, then.
No, it's 3 bedrooms.
Oh,
It's
I'm
three,
sorry.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
three
there are 3 small bedrooms. 2 are very small, and then the other one is 12 by 14.
What my concern was, I didn't want to have,
Right.
say that it's 2 bedrooms, one of which now becomes the bonus room, and I arched the door to make the small bedroom an office.
Mhm.
right?
I think
Location and
that's good.
size
I think it's
indicated.
good
Yeah,
change.
that's fine. And the storage only is fine as well. What happens when the house is now for sale? A new owner may be in the foreseeable future. This special permit and the requirement that it be owner occupied runs with the deed, right? So there's no way that selling the house is going to change this situation.
No, this is, on record with the deed. All these conditions are on record.
Right, and if it doesn't get recorded, it's not a valid special permit.
Right.
Right.
And is storage only, is that okay if there's mechanicals? Is that considered to be storage?
Yeah, it's storing your hot water heater.
Okay, I just want to make sure the legal.
I think that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just in that one condition where the bolding is,
Yeah.
at the very end of that paragraph, you have in quotes, bonus room storage. And I think it should say storage only.
Okay. Okay.
Storage only conditions.
Yep.
But if he sold it now, assuming that the permit was granted and he sold it, what is he selling? He's selling a large house, plus
He's-
the ability to put a small house up there, one of which have to be owner occupied.
Yeah, and the small house is going to be somewhat restricted in that you're not going to be able to use that large room as the bedroom. You're not going to be able to use it at all.
I think it's about as protected as we can protect it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Future purchases, number 10 reiterates that. And actually gives us written proof that it's, that it's happening.
Yeah. I mean, I think the one thing maybe you could add is that they have to provide that deed restriction before they get a certificate of occupancy.
Let's add that.
What would that be?
Then we
Number
add-
10?
So you could add it to number 3, actually, right?
Yeah,
It
it
would
would
be
be
three.
Restrictions shall be provided prior to. Or something, somewhere in there.
Is that going to be too cumbersome, Bob, to actually?
No, I mean, a certificate of occupancy is,
That's the last thing, right?
that's the last
Yeah,
bit,
Okay.
and, you know, we can certainly accommodate that.
I mean, you give them a temporary before then, right?
Most likely, if they want it for any good reason, sure.
So what's the wording?
It's going to
What do you
say
have?
storage only conditions before a certificate of occupancy is granted.
One other thing, Laura, this is just to sort of put a finer point on the rationale for the accessory dwelling under section 5 or item 5.
This is in the findings?
Yeah, the findings.
Yep.
I thought we should also point out, sort of integrate this concept of the lot coverage ratio that they had presented data on.
Okay, let's see what they had.
Or maybe refer to it.
Yep, the applicant.
That's a good point.
That the lot coverage ratio was relatively small.
Well, in fact, the lot's twice the area that it requires in this district, so you could conceive, you could, by right, do a two-family on the lot, which is not often the situation when we're considering accessory dwellings.
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of emphasize
No, I think
that,
that's a good thing to
you know,
emphasize.
is a piece of the
So this doesn't
rationale.
set a precedent necessarily.
Right.
Where did they give us that?
Sorry, I should have brought it up earlier, probably so you can research it.
I have another sheet, I know where it is.
Oh, you know where it is? Okay,
I gotta go back to the office to get it.
okay, great.
Sure.
Well, we're...
Oh, here we go. The
Yeah.
total impervious area of the lot, including existing and proposed development, will be approximately 9,835 square feet, or 18% of the lot area.
Right.
So I think that does it.
The lot's all upland too, isn't it?
Yes,
There's no wetlands,
I don't think
so
so.
you could even say it was 9% of the upland area.
Well, no, I take it back. I do think there were...
I think there's an offset from wetlands.
So
There
is
was
this
an
thing,
offset from
I wrote,
wetland. Yeah, there was,
Right.
it was
But
in the
not the
100-foot
wetlands.
buffer zone.
Right, not the wetlands themselves.
Yeah. It also, number 8, says the site appears to be on town street. Is it right?
It is.
Probably ought to take the ambiguity out.
So the 5% is more impressive.
so I wrote, the applicant provided information that the accessory dwelling area is only 18% of the entire lot?
Oh, it's actually,
It's lower than
no,
that, right?
the lot coverage of the accessory and primary dwellings will be approximately 5% of the lot.
That's what I remember, yeah.
Oh. All right, I'll just use it.
That's a good catch. It's gonna-
And then on item 8, Laura, in the
Yep.
findings, the second sentence probably ought to say, the site is on town sewer.
Yeah,
As
yeah,
opposed
that's
to
fine,
appears to
yeah.
be.
Yeah, that's a little more definite.
I guess the same question sort of applies on 11, maybe it's a little iffy.
There
but it says
there are
here-
no,
Yeah, there are
Well,
no,
and
No
10
exterior
is-
sh-
10 as well.
no exterior stairs are shown on the plan.
I would propose to change 10 as well in the same
Okay,
same way.
complies, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, take out the appears to stuff, right?
okay. Okay.
We have a motion?
Like a style makeover.
Well, it's less
It's good, it's
ambiguous.
good, it's all
It leaves
good.
us less open to challenge if there were such a possibility.
Okay, so this sentence is part of 5 when you get there.
Let me see. The applicant provided,
Information.
information showing the lot coverage will be approximately 5%.
The coverage of the primary and accessory dwellings,
The lot coverage of the primary and accessory dwelling will be approximately 5%. Okay.
5% of the lot, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Motion Maker.
That sounds like a song.
Would you like a
Mr.
lozenge?
Motion maker, make me a motion. It doesn't really fit with this Mr. Sandman thing. Anyway,
No, except it puts us to sleep.
Yeah. I'm taking this the wrong way, but I'm just interested in the motion.
okay,
Right.
not singing? Okay, I move to make the following findings of fact concerning accessory dwelling special permit 345 Hatherley Road. Number 1, according to the Town of Scituate Assessor's records, the property at 345 Hatherley Road is owned by Michael E. and Kristen Ahern. The property is located in the residential R2 zoning district on a lot of 53,579 square feet, according to the stamped surveyed site plan. Number 2, on May 13th, 2014, Mike Ahern, General Contracting, applied for a special permit for a detached accessory dwelling on the property at 345 Hatherley Road. Number 3, according to the plan and assessor's records, the floor area of the primary dwelling is 4,368 square feet. The floor area of the accessory dwelling, as shown on the plan, is approximately 1,520 square feet. The floor area of the accessory dwelling will be 34.8% of the living area of the primary dwelling, which is less than the 40% maximum in the bylaw. It meets the size requirements of 530.2F for accessory dwellings. Number 4, the detached accessory dwelling will blend with the architectural style and be of similar materials to the existing primary dwelling. Number 5, the accessory dwelling will be located behind the existing primary dwelling with a 230-foot front setback. The side setbacks will be approximately 32 feet and 34 feet, well in excess of the 8-foot setbacks required in this zoning district. The location of the accessory dwelling behind and to the side of the existing home, its size and location on the lot, smaller footprint and mass, and fewer bedrooms make the accessory dwelling subordinate to the primary dwelling. The applicant provided information showing the lot coverage of the accessory dwelling will be approximately 5% of the entire lot.
The accessory and the primary.
Oh, I'm sorry, the accessory and the primary dwelling, yes. So the lot coverage of the accessory and primary dwelling will be approximately 5% of the entire lot.
Can you stop there? Can you just, will be 5% of the lot, so are you trying to say that that's making it subordinate? So.
That's
somehow
part of the
we have to-
rationale.
Somehow we have to tie that back into the subordinate part.
Do you want to put that sentence before that last sentence that you read?
Oh, okay, so,
I'm just trying to
I
get.
think
so
that'll
that-
help.
So that you're saying that all these things contribute.
yeah, you know what, you're right. Okay, so let's
Make it the third sentence.
say, number
Yeah.
5. The accessory dwelling will be located behind the existing primary dwelling with a 230-foot front setback. The side setbacks will be approximately 32 feet and 34 feet, well in excess of the 8-foot setbacks required in this zoning district. The applicant provided information showing that the lot coverage of the primary and accessory dwellings will be approximately 5% of the entire lot. the location of the accessory dwelling behind and to the side of the existing home, its size and location on the lot, smaller footprint and mass, and fewer bedrooms combine to make the accessory dwelling subordinate to the primary dwelling.
That's
How's
great.
Number 6, the site plan and architectural drawings show the detached accessory dwelling to have a 2-car garage. Outside the garage, the detached accessory dwelling has 2 parking spaces in the driveway. The primary dwelling has a separate garage and driveway for the house. This appears adequate to provide 2 parking spaces for the accessory dwelling and ample parking for the primary dwelling. Number 7, the property is for sale. The applicant has submitted a signed, notarized statement that he will live on the property in the smaller dwelling unit, the accessory dwelling, and rent out the larger one. The special permit will be recorded. Number 8, the Board of Health has indicated they have no concerns about the project. The site is on town sewer. Number 9, one accessory dwelling unit is contained on the lot in a detached structure. It will be a separate housekeeping unit. Number 10, the detached accessory dwelling complies with all required setback, building height, and yard requirements for the primary structure according to the information provided. Number 11, no exterior stairs are shown on the plan. Number 12, the application meets the standards of Scituate zoning bylaw for an accessory dwelling special permit. I move to approve the special permit for an accessory dwelling at 345, oh wait, okay, never mind, I'm sorry, that was the finding. So that was, do we want to vote that separately?
Yeah.
That was just the findings of fact.
So I get a motion for the findings of fact. Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, on to the next one. I move to approve the special permit for an accessory dwelling at 345 Hatherley Road with the following conditions. Number 1, the applicant shall meet all requirements of the Building Department, Board of Health, Department of Public Works, Fire Department, Water Department, and other town agencies. Number 2, except for any changes necessary to meet these conditions, any construction shall conform to the plans entitled A, Site Plan at 345 Hatherley Road, Scituate, Massachusetts, prepared for Michael Ahern by Spath Engineering Incorporated, dated October 28, 2013. B, as built, existing conditions, 345 Hatherley Road, Scituate, Mass, by JAKKA Architecture, dated May 12, 2014. Sheets 3 through 5, first, second, and third floor plans. And C, proposed home plan for 345 Hatherley Road, Scituate, Massachusetts, including a picture with specifications, elevation, and main level and second level footprint. Condition number 3, the property at 345 Hatherley Road shall contain a maximum of 2 dwelling units, the existing dwelling and the detached accessory dwelling as proposed. The footprint, number of bedrooms, and/or square footage of the accessory dwelling shall not be increased without prior approval of the planning board. The number of bedrooms in the detached accessory dwelling is limited to 3 in the location and size indicated on the second level plan submitted with the application and attached herein. The bonus room cannot ever become habitable space. All plans shall replace the label bonus room with storage only, dash, not to be used as habitable space. A deed restriction shall be provided and recorded by the applicant noting the bedroom and bonus room storage only conditions before the certificate of occupancy is granted. A full basement will not be provided. Oh, that was the, I want to make sure I'm on the right. Okay, condition number 4. The owner of the property shall reside on the property as long as it contains an accessory dwelling unit. Any prospective buyers of the property shall be advised of this condition. Number 5, the planning board will require an on-site inspection for conformance to the approved plans and these conditions prior to a certificate of occupancy being issued for the accessory dwelling. Number 6, no on-street parking shall be permitted at any time. Construction vehicles, equipment shall not be parked, stored, loaded, or unloaded in the street. Number 7, pavement is limited to that shown on the site plan by Spath Engineering Incorporated dated October 28, 2013. The additional driveway for the accessory dwelling will be a pervious natural material and not bituminous concrete. Number 8, this special permit shall be void if it is not recorded at the Registry of Deeds within 90 days of the date of filing with the town clerk. The owner shall provide proof of this recording to the planning board. Number 9, this special permit shall lapse within 2 years from the date of its issuance unless substantial use or construction has commenced prior to that time in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9. Number 10, future purchasers shall be notified at the signing of purchase and sale of the requirements of zoning bylaw Section 530, including the requirement that they live on the site and this special permit and its conditions. The planning board shall be provided with an affidavit from the owners stating that they will live on the property within 1 week of the closing. Number 11, the planning board reserves the right to review compliance with this special permit at any time. At the request of the planning board, an affidavit shall be provided that either the primary or the accessory unit is owner occupied. Number 12, at each transfer of ownership of the property, a new affidavit that the owner resides on the property shall be provided to the planning board. Number 13, this special permit shall terminate if the use is not in accordance with this decision and its conditions.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I think we conditioned that pretty well.
I think you did. I think you kind of conditioned the heck out of it, but it's okay.
But they got no exterior stairs. They were gonna sneak those right in. Okay, next item on the agenda is a Form A for 26 Mordecai Lincoln Road.
Yeah.
While you're looking for it, I live right across the street, so I'm 317 as opposed to 316 where this is.
You're in butter?
I am in a butter.
Does that mean you recuse yourself?
I will recuse myself.
Wow. That's an interesting,
Peter is in charge.
We have to
that's
do-
an interesting looking lot.
Go sit down there, can you?
No, too much, too
I guess we don't have an applicant here.
No.
Okay.
No, I was kind of.
There's a north, don't get turned
So
around.
Hatherley Road is at the bottom, oh, Gannon, I mean,
Really just a minor
Yeah.
thing.
it's at the bottom.
Okay. Do you want to just go
All the
through?
way around.
Sure,
The marsh does.
no change in the lot lines, the only thing that's changing is
Summit,
this lot.
Looks like Three Ring Road, that's further down.
yeah, but how does this get a Mordecai Road
That's what I was
address?
trying to figure out.
I guess,
Is this,
Turn off one
is
kind
this
of the back.
just to
well, but,
meet some setback requirements?
but where?
They want to put an addition on the house,
It gets,
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
and they don't have a rear setback.
I see.
Can you go
it's
through
got
that again?
frontage on Summit.
Sorry.
This piece of land here, this little strip here,
Yep.
is
It's
going to
got
be
frontage on
part of
Gannett.
Lot A, it's going to be
So
part
the lot
of
has frontage on Gannett Road, right?
this lot here.
So that they
It's going
can-
to be sold
so
to
they can
these
bump
people.
out the,
So they
uh,
can bump out,
Okay.
yeah.
Gary Anderson, 28. I'm confused.
Yeah, why is it on Mordecai
Is it
Lincoln Road?
is it Lot A that we're looking at?
Because
No,
the
we're looking
land's
at
being
lot.
split off of
Parcel B.
the property that's on Mordecai Lincoln.
Here's the house.
Which is this little guy right here.
And it's this little 20-foot strip
Oh,
behind it.
But
And what
they-
they needed is, they need to get
oh,
the
just setback.
the setback.
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, this is nothing to do with this, but I've noticed that Mordecai, like, roads that
So
need that.
there-
I don't know if it's Lincoln, but I noticed several places that have that in Scituate.
Mordecai Lincoln or just Lincoln?
I mean, Mordecai something or other.
Only one Mordecai. Only one Mordecai.
Only one Mordecai Lincoln that I know
I still don't
of.
understand how this has a Mordecai Lincoln address, Bill.
It's because the land is being divided off the lot that's on Mordecai Lincoln.
Oh, okay,
All right.
Okay,
okay.
So-
I see what you're saying. Okay, got it.
so you're chairing.
All right. So are there any other issues on this?
No.
No?
It can be endorsed.
Any questions from the board?
Seems pretty straightforward to me.
Same here.
Once it was explained, yes, very straightforward.
Right, right. Too
All right,
much,
so do we have-
too much information on this piece of paper.
So we-
Yes, we do. I move to endorse, as approved under the subdivision control law not required, a plan of land in the town of Scituate, Massachusetts, 26 Mordecai Lincoln Road, prepared by Ross Engineering Company Incorporated for applicant Scott R. and Laura J. Anderson, dated July 28th, 2014, as the division of land is not a subdivision because it shows a change in lot line which does not alter the existing frontage as required under the Scituate zoning bylaw.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
This is a,
Do you need these?
what is, I mean, is,
We need 3 of them, and
So I need one more.
There you go.
It's Richard who signs?
is Mordecai, what is that, is that a name, or?
Yes,
Yeah, Mordecai's a...
he was the great-great-grandfather of Abraham, or something like that. Seriously.
I know I've seen Mordecai somewhere else in Situate, though.
Oh, that's Malachi.
I don't know any Mordecai's.
It's a,
So
it's
either
a,
of
it's
the
a
2
rare
of you
earth
can
element,
sign.
actually. Just check the periodic table.
Just whoever signs them, sign all of them.
Okay. Well,
Where-
we
where
can
do
put
we
those
sign?
aside, or?
Yeah, let's take them on.
Yes, sign 3, and,
Sign in blue.
but I don't think
Well, if I'm gonna sign, then we need to get this signed. So everybody signs
Keep
that.
this, because I'm going to see that
That's
again.
for 345
Oh,
Hathaway.
yeah, we're gonna get this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're absolutely gonna get this.
I mean, but if they're signing right now.
Okay,
Yeah, are
turning the reins
are
back
you
over
guys-
to the chair.
Okay.
Because the next item on the agenda is accounting. We owe bills.
Did I forget to bring them?
Oh, shucks.
Oh, yeah.
I see minutes.
I forget the bills all the time. My wife yells at me.
Minutes here.
Okay.
I just assigned her the bills.
Yeah.
I never go near it.
Just leave along,
Safest way.
looks like.
July 10th.
Okay. I move that we approve the Scituate Planning Board minutes of July 10th, 2014.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, then we've got a sheet to sign for the 345 Headley Road special permit.
So we have no bills?
We
Sheet,
have lots
yeah.
of bills. Yeah. Okay, so,
All right, we approve the
I'm a little
minutes. That's
suspicious of these
signed.
paper clips we keep buying from WB Mason.
Oh, we
They're
don't
only-
buy them, we just, we go down the office, go down the hall and steal them.
There you go. That's what I like to
That's where
hear.
they all ended up.
They
we
have you
keep
on
like
record now.
recycling.
And they
go-
give them back to us.
Yeah.
So where do we sign this thing?
They had an instant special
Yeah.
today of,
Do we date it?
you know, the dividers for
Today's date
filing
is,
on your desk, for putting file folders
Yeah,
in.
yeah, yeah.
The metal ones.
Yeah, like a file stand, yeah.
Yeah, penny apiece. WB Mason.
I
Yeah,
read
you
somewhere
were there
that
when
Staples
Kathy
did
Curran
something
came in with this
like
ad.
municipally
Yeah.
I'll
for
show
New
you.
York.
It's those metal
And
dividers for
Apparently somebody
papers.
didn't read something, so it
So
applied
if
to
you
like
want
the whole
one,
state. So they had like
You're a penny.
all the school districts, all the universities buying like, notepads.
Cases of this stuff.
Oh, yeah, for
Yeah.
penny toilet paper and stuff like that. So
Right.
it's just, and they're just like, oops, we might have to, they had to honor it, but.
Yeah, yeah.
Staples has got a lot of whoops that are going on.
Yes, yes.
All right, you ready for bills?
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. I move that we pay $178.50 to Chesia Consulting for a pre-construction meeting on the Glen.
Excuse me.
In addition, I move that we pay $1,092.50 to Chesia Consulting for the 50 Country Way site plan review. Not sure if that's the definitive, but we'll see. It was the mixed use, it didn't say, so. Okay. All right, in addition, I move that we pay $209.04 to Gatehouse Media for the legal ad for 113 Arbor Way Drive and the legal ad for the Country Way Lot 1 notice. And Bill's favorite, I move that we pay $41.80 to WB Mason for office supplies, a memory card, and reader. I love it, SIN and date tags. SIN?
Yeah, well,
You've got SIN tags? I
We left a sin in the plan.
don't know what that is, but, okay. And I finally moved to pay $24.59 to, again, WB Mason for requisition, submittal, or I'm sorry, for office supplies.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. And we have a piece of paper on the special permit that just needs 4 signatures, whoever they are. And I had a couple little updates while people are writing.
You gonna include 305?
Yeah, I'll include 305.
Good.
So just to let everybody know about some things that are going on, there are some members of the Art Association, the Scituate Arts Association, that are beginning to work on an application for Scituate Harbor to be a cultural district, a Massachusetts cultural district. Exactly what the culture is, I'm not sure.
No
but-
way.
That means.
Mossing, right?
Mossing, could be everything to do with the sea, like nautical culture. Maybe there's like a nautical culture.
Maritime.
that
Do we
you
have an
could-
artist
or
colony?
maritime.
We should have an artist
There
colony.
you go.
Yeah, we could,
Yeah.
but it's partly about what we already have.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of interesting.
We do, actually.
That's an official state designation.
Put up another sign.
Yeah, it's an official state designation.
Right.
What does it,
What do we get?
yeah, what we
They're
get
not
for it?
quite sure there's no money right now, but there could be
Are there
sometime later.
Right.
Does it come with limitations?
No, I don't think there are any.
Restrictions of any kind?
No, I don't think so. It's more like a positive thing where you're going to be able to do things and get things and market the town for tourism and things like that. So it could be an economic development, benefit there.
Sounds good.
Then we're beginning, we actually almost have a final draft of the housing plan, which is going to have some recommendations in it. It's going to have a recommendation about maintaining accessory dwellings so that they're accepted by everyone. And,
Just
you
need 3.
can guess who put that in there, but the nice thing about working with consultants on some of these things is you can really kind of feed them, what you want to have in there. But there's an awful lot more in there about creating affordable housing, some of which we might be able to do in the near future, different types of zoning. So I will make sure that gets around to all of you. We had a directive from Tricia that the town departments begin to pull together the pieces of the Toll Brothers development that will need peer review. So I've got kind of a draft that I just wanted you all to take a look at, because I'm thinking this probably is going to be done through the subdivision process. So,
Cluster?
yeah, sorry?
Cluster?
Cluster? No, they don't want to do cluster at all. It's just going to be a straight kind of cookie cutter subdivision. So it is what it is. Although, suppose you could get, if you got the right kind of consultants, you might get a recommendation for cluster. But, but anyway. So there's that. The consulting engineer contracts are just about signed. Those are going to go to Tricia tomorrow. And after that, we get the other two firms on board, Environmental Partners and Merrill. And then 305 Country Way was the site that you all remember really well. Who could forget? And there's been some kind of change of heart or kind of indecisiveness from the applicant about whether he's going to do the subdivision right now or do it later. And he wanted to get a building permit for one house out there because his daughter kind of needs a house. She's got some things going on where she's going to need a house sooner rather than later. And the most recent thing that has happened is that he came in with an application for a building permit just for the one house. And the problem that I saw with it, in many ways, there really is no problem. It's an existing lot. You tore down one house. You did that before the demolition review bylaw, so you can, build a new house. The only problem is that really with any new construction, you typically get the stormwater reviewed. And on that property, as we all kind of got exposed to in different forms, going through the subdivision process, you're right on top of a tributary to the reservoir. You've got some sensitive areas. The lot kind of slopes downhill. The driveway's going to kind of be going downhill. So I thought it was really important to see all of that on a plan. And if the detention basin was going to be built, then you really need to know who's going to be maintaining it. If it's not going to be built, then you need to know, well, what kind of stormwater control is there going to be? So I haven't done this very often in my history in Scituate, but I did not sign off on the building permit. But things are continuing to move forward. I don't know if you want to talk about that?
Yeah, no, I'll definitely input on that. Mr. Sheeran was in the building department this afternoon. My impression, although I hesitate to speak definitively for him, is that his intention is to build out the subdivision precisely in the way that we permitted it, and that the ultimate development on that site will match, again, the special permit that this board granted. He wants to get going on this house for the reasons that you said, Laura, so that it, can be finished sooner rather than later. One question I had of you, and it doesn't have to be, to the precise day, but when was the subdivision plan registered with the town clerk's office? What date?
I'm going to have to go back and
Yeah,
look.
no, I'm thinking about the 90-day period that it's got to be registered at the Plymouth Registry of Deeds, right? That's the window.
It's longer than that, but
I
I don't have any of that with me.
I think they have to do it within six, I think the road.
It's
that has to be
180 days, yeah.
6 months after. I think
okay.
we're working from a June date.
Okay,
That's
the 90
probably-
days, I read in the 345 Hatherley Road
That's a special permit.
this is different. Oh, I beg your pardon, okay. I assumed they were the same.
That was a special permit too, was it?
There was a
Recorded-
special permit, and then there was a definitive plan.
Yeah.
So
So this says, "This
Yeah.
special permit shall be void if not recorded at the Registry of Deeds within 90 days of the
Right.
date of filing." This is for 345 Hatherley. So I didn't know if that applied to the 305 Country Way situation as well.
The special permit granting authority has to take final action within 90 days. Let's see. Okay. Indicating final. I mean, he has 2 years to build it, but that's not your
Right.
question.
No, because
Recording it, right?
I believe once that's recorded, then he's committed to proceeding along the lines of what we permitted,
Well, he has 2 years, though. He doesn't have to do
To
anything
build
right
it.
away.
to build it.
Start substantial
But-
construction, right?
Yeah.
But legally, he can't build anything else once that's recorded.
When you say you can't build
But
anything else.
you're
it doesn't
saying
have to-
that-
He doesn't, he could build nothing at all, right? But he couldn't build something different
Right.
once
But he-
that's recorded.
Well, without getting, I mean, he
Can't
can't
do it
build
now.
something
Coming
different
back in front of the
anyway
board.
without getting your approval.
Right.
Well,
because-
no, that's not true. Right, as it stands right now, he can build something entirely different. He can build a single home
Because it's
on
not-
that entire parcel,
It's not recorded.
Because it's not recorded.
because it's not recorded.
He can, sure,
Right,
he
but
he
then he
can,
can
but there's the
build
whole
the-
question of the
Once it's
stormwater review, which is,
Yeah, no,
something that
no,
you haven't really
understood,
talked
but
about.
all I'm hoping that in the near future, it is recorded, which is going to kick in the requirement, and, 2 things, the requirement to do what we've permitted, and the prohibition from doing anything other than what we've permitted.
Yeah, well,
Well, and
I don't think he's prohibited from building a single-family house there, no matter whether he records the plan or he doesn't record the plan. I think he
Okay,
can
all
still
right,
do
all
that.
right. All right, I didn't understand that.
but the,
But I mean, it's going to cost him money down at the registry to record it, and he probably wouldn't bother if he's really not intending to build it.
Yeah, well, exactly, and clearly, he didn't buy the property with the intent of building a single home on it, because the return on investment would not have been there.
Yeah,
So it just, I hope and I believe that this whole process is going to catch up with itself. And yes, there's a little uneasiness at this particular moment that part of it's going forward without everything else, kind of gathered around it and being in place.
Yeah.
I don't think that condition or that situation is going to last very long. I think relatively soon, we'll be back to where we started.
I'm not
Just
sure
to
what
clar-
that means, though, Bob. I mean, what do you mean? He's going to proceed with building a single-family home, and then somehow he's going to...
No, I think at some point during the construction of the single-family home,
It morphs into the subdivision.
it's gonna become, engulfed by and morphed into the entire subdivision, and this will just turn out to be the first step in the
But
construction.
I thought he had to do a whole bunch of things before he could pull a building permit for the I mean, didn't he have
For the
requirements for the
subdivision,
subdivision?
but
Yeah.
not for a single-family home,
well, I saw
Well,
some
what-
things
not-
that I
not
thought he
for
wanted to
the,
not for
do.
one house.
It sort of subverts the idea of the subdivision, right?
well,
I
is,
mean, he could
I know what you're saying. and-
single-family homes one at a time?
No, at this point, he's got frontage on Country Way for the house that has, the house he hasn't gotten the permit yet, but for the house for which he will probably get a permit within the next few days. So that's one house on one lot. In fact, the lot had an existing house on it, which was torn down, with frontage on Country Way. The subdivision, in the subdivision plan, that house doesn't have frontage on Country Way, and in fact, it doesn't have frontage at all until the new White Ash Farm Lane is constructed, because that's where its frontage occurs, if you see what I'm saying.
so,
Right,
This
so
is
he
where I'm
could end up
confused,
building
is-
a house and then cutting the house off while he's building the subdivision?
No, he'd have to, well, it's conceivable, I guess, depending on the sequence of operation.
Yeah, because I think you hit on something, that he's going to have to be excavating the road while somebody's living back there.
I don't think so, Laura. I think well before, it
possibly.
takes 6 months to build a house or more. Well before that, I think the road at least is going to be roughed in and passable, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
So the one
It's just-
house
We don't know
he's
that.
proposing, though, is identical to the dimensions that were shown on the,
It's the,
on the special permit that we approved.
right, it's the farthest house in, the third house in, the farthest away from
The one that was closest to the water resource.
Country Way.
Or the,
Right, the furthest from Country Way.
right, the one that was closest to the water resource protection.
It's the
Well,
street.
in the back, you know,
In the back.
the portion in the
Yeah,
back.
it's not necessarily closest, it's closest to the main retention
So he's going to
basin.
build a road all the way back there?
Well, that's the part that I think,
Yeah.
you know, the building department has to make sure he has access.
Right.
And the planning is supposed to be looking at stormwater.
Before we issue,
Yeah.
before we could issue a certificate of occupancy, not necessarily for construction.
Yeah.
So certainly there'll be no certificate of occupancy issued until all of that's in place. Nobody's going to be living in the house.
So who's
I
going
admit,
to
it's-
protect the no-touch district at this point then?
I haven't seen it, but I've been told that the silt sock and fence and, barriers are already in place. I mean, it's been, the plans that we have been engineered. It's Greg, Morse Engineering. But it's a plan for a single house on a single lot with frontage on Country Way.
Well, except that it just sort of shows you the back of the lot. It doesn't show the whole driveway, which I'm not saying obviously he's going to have a driveway there. The concern that I thought that the board would have was just looking at how stormwater is going to be handled. Because with the subdivision, it was a long engineering process and a lot of review and a lot of money that was spent on both sides
Oh, yeah.
of that review.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're not going to build that road the way it was, or you're not going to build that detention basin at the back, then, you want to know, what's he going to do with that stormwater kind of going downhill? Is it just going to get, caught in the woods, or, how is that going to be absorbed?
Well, the interesting thing is the detention basin is shown as part of the construction.
Yeah, but then there's still the issues about maintenance
But
and, who's going to
understood.
maintain it, and, yeah,
As I
so,
said, my impression right now, my strong impression, this is an interim situation, which is really just allowing a little bit of a head start on, the part of the development that's critical for reasons other than, construction-type reasons, or a family situation that, is looking to be solved.
yeah. Well,
There could be a potential construction problem if there was a temporary sump uphill. You can't be just if they're going to build a basin now, you can't have that basin being mucked up during construction because it'll never drain.
Right.
That's why there's a temporary sump
Right.
uphill from that basin, so that you don't ruin your initial basin.
The quality of the material has to be
Mhm.
Right, you don't
such.
want it to get it
Silted over, yeah.
silted
Right,
over,
correct.
because then they don't usually drain.
Yep,
so,
yep.
That's just a caution. I mean,
No, I hear you.
I guess I would suggest that if this is the case, that we at least have somebody come back and tell us how they plan to integrate this into the overall plan. It seems like it's kind of gone backwards to a different objective at this point. And we don't know at the end of the day whether he's actually going to build this subdivision or not, right? So we have to sort of look at it as if...
That's why I want to get the plan registered. But, I mean, the
Yeah, I mean-
subdivision plan registered.
Even if he registers, it doesn't mean he's going to build it, right?
no, well,
No, but it never did. in that case,
Right, so if he's changing his game plan, then shouldn't the drawings reflect that? Shouldn't the engineering reflect that?
Yeah.
I mean,
The question becomes, if as long as it's a single house, he doesn't need to come here.
Well, he doesn't need to come here, but he at least needs to come and show his stormwater.
Right, similar to
I mean,
what was
there's a
just done
stormwater
on
bylaw.
Moreland
Moreland.
tonight.
Yeah.
Exactly
If he's
that.
Yeah.
If he's disturbing enough, right? Which it sounds like he would be, right?
Well, he's building a house where there wasn't a house before, and he's
Right.
building a driveway. There was a house, uphill on the lot,
Right.
but you don't really, he had on the back of an envelope, or somebody had on the back of an envelope, that the numbers were not going to get any larger of impervious surface because of the size of the house, but he didn't even have anything about the driveway. So I think you need to know about that driveway. How wide is it going to be? How long is it going to be? What are the, characteristics of the grade and all of that? And then, he is still in the Water Resource Protection District, even though he's not in the Zone A. So he still has all those, 90% TSS removal, all those same things that, somebody just went through for the property on Moreland Road. I sympathize with him. It probably is going to cost a lot just to record the plan, because each sheet has to be recorded, and then he's going to have to do an estimate for the cost of the road and put up a performance bond. We put up either cash or a bond to guarantee the road construction, and then get the lot release. And that's all going to mean, a little more delay, a little more coming in front of the planning board, but it's doable. So, anyway.
okay.
I'm sure you two guys can work it out.
Yeah.
Yes, well, if you see me in the corridor tomorrow with a hole in my head, you'll know what happened.
I'm not
Fine,
gonna put it
I'll
there.
certainly, we can talk about that.
Anything
Yeah,
else
well,
before I get Bob?
I just wanted to hear from the board. I mean,
Yeah,
okay.
all right.
Just a question, I know we have
I have.
Riverway coming in. Is there they're just coming in to address the commercial, or, what's the
Yep.
status, basically?
Well, I talked to him today, and he was a little bit feeling like, why did he have to do this? And he had every right to sell off the rights to the commercial building, and so on and so forth. And I did explain that it was a condition of the special permit that commercial building had to be there, and the 2 affordable units had to be there, and that the board wanted to see, what was going to be built.
When will it be there?
When will it be there?
Very concerned.
There's a lot of, small, and some not so small issues. And he, it was the same situation as before. You can talk to him on the phone for a long time, but when a letter comes from Bill, he'll respond to that. So we have a letter from Bill going out, and I don't know if you've signed it yet, but we have it going out, and he said, he'll wait for the letter, and when he gets the letter, he'll come in on September 25th at 7:30 and talk to you.
Okay.
So he's going to come talk to you.
Well, and I just had a quick comment. I was driving around to some of the prior developments that we had approved, and I went to Tilden Estates, and I just wanted something to you guys to think about. I think it's actually turning out fantastic. It's very nice. The only thing I would say in retrospect is we had a condition where we said we eliminated the granite curbing. That was it's not a special condition, what would you call it?
Waiver?
Waiver, thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. And I just was curious to see what you guys felt about that, because in that particular case, I feel like it's kind of missing that granite curbing. And I know we did it on Blanchard as well, for the Blanchard Farms. But just to think about that, of how you feel that turns out. I think the development itself, again, is very nice. The last house is under construction that I saw there. And so, the areas that are marked to the public space or open space are very clearly marked. The sidewalks are there and all that's really good. So just as a thought.
We need to do another thing we need to do is figure out how to get rid of the detention basin.
They had that huge, well, you can't really, now it's behind the houses, so.
I mean, but it's there.
They talked to us in the office about that the other day, and they said they really deliberately oversized it, that it did not have to be that big, but they made it, half again as large as it had to be. Steve and Mark.
Why would they do that?
They just have certain sort of internal, standards that they use for things.
Yeah.
So
Is it shallower than it would have been otherwise, or is it just?
I would imagine it's the same depth it would have been
Yeah,
otherwise.
because it's
just
got to be for groundwater
I looked at it
separation.
earlier, and it ended up that they were playing football there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
big.
well.
I mean, it's
Is that
big
right?
and,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
big and it was dry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the kids and I used to ride our bikes down there, and we run out and we rode all around it, and I'm just like, holy cow, look at this thing. I said, I was trying to figure out how many houses there were and why this was so big, and I said, there must be a reason. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah, well, I think, that's.
Well, we could line it for youth soccer.
there you go. Yeah.
On dry days,
idea.
dry days only.
And another quick question, I drove by 33 Garden, our famous
Oh, yeah.
accessory, and there, nothing had been done. Is it 2 years they have?
Yeah, that's what they have.
Okay.
And I thought I saw that house was for sale, or there's, something's going on with that house, that maybe she moved,
Or she hasn't.
something like that. Or she
Was it-
hasn't moved.
Was it recorded?
Yes.
Yeah,
Was.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
it
we
was.
get all that stuff in
Okay,
the
so that's
office.
curious, yeah, I was just kind of getting an update on that, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did we get Bob's motion?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are done.